Offices of Inspector General add up to about 14,000 employees. If they were an agency, they'd be a mid-sized one. Well, IG people are scattered, but they do have the Council of Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency, CIGIE. CIGIE figures that in fiscal 2023, their recommendation saved the government $100 billion. Joining me in studio for an update, CIGIE Chairman, also the Inspector General of the Interior Department, Mark Lee Greenblatt. Mark, good to have you back.
Thank you so much for having me, Tom. We have a great story to tell, and I'm excited to share it with you.
And you've worked your way up to chairman of CIGIE. You came in as just a member, and then you were vice chairman. Is it fun at the top?
It is, and even before being a member, I was the executive director, the lead staffer at the council. So, yes, I've worked my way up, as you say, and it is a nice organization, nice community to be a part of.
And is CIGIE demanding such that you can get some sort of dispensation from IG of Interior, or do you have to be a full-time two-hatter?
I am a full-time two-hatter, and let's just say it is a full slate of activities, a lot of good stuff going on, both of the Department of the Interior in our Office of Inspector General, but also in the OIG community writ large. As you said, we have 14,000 folks strewn across the entire world, frankly, and they're doing incredible work. And that's one nice thing as the chair of CIGIE, is to be able to discuss the work of all these great professionals out there around the world.
And just give us the quick summary of 2023, the latest fiscal year for which you have full savings induced by CIGIE recommendations.
Yeah, it's a fantastic report that we just issued. This is our annual report to the President and to Congress, identifying in broad strokes what the OIG community has been doing. And this is a reflection not just of CIGIE, the agency, the federal organization in and of itself, but also the OIG community writ large. And as you mentioned, we have over $93 billion in potential savings. This is savings from the audit, inspections, and evaluation side, but also from investigative recoveries as well. And, when you compare that with all of the federal IG budgets, which are about $3.5 billion, you compare that with the, over $93 billion in potential savings, you're talking about a return on investment of $26 for every dollar invested into an OIG. So I think that's a remarkable return on investment for the American taxpayer, for the stakeholders on the Hill, and I hope they appreciate that we're going to bat for them every single day.
And there is now some growing confluence between the Pandemic Recovery Accountability Committee, PRAC, because of the desire of CIGIE and the CIGIE members to preserve the analytical platform that PRAC had created, a little too late, actually, to prevent all of the fraud. But the sense is that this tool could prevent future fraud. What's the progress on that?
This is a potential game changer, Tom. This is going to redefine how oversight works in the federal government. If we can get a data analytics center like what we've done in the PRAC scenario, in the PRAC setting, in the pandemic relief legislation, if we can get that with respect to much broader scope throughout the federal government, it's like putting in hyperdrive. I don't know if you remember in Star Wars when the Millennium Falcon hits hyperdrive and it just shoots through the stars. That would be the equivalent of what we could do with our data analytics capability. All of a sudden, you're talking about harvesting these data sets and doing these analyses that are far more complicated than I can understand, but they are hyper-technical. And what we could do is ferret out real-time information for agencies, for OIGs to pursue leads. And there's that preventative side, which goes to the agency. So we say, we found these abnormalities. These are things you should be looking for, agency, before you spend this money. That is a huge piece that we can do. But also, once the money has gone out, we can give additional data sets to individual IGs and say, hey, look, this is abnormal. You should be pursuing this. This may be, indications of fraud. And like I said, this would be a game changer for us. And it's not that expensive. That's the key. We were talking about return on investment a second ago. The return on investment would make that look like, nothing, frankly. It's really, really important for us. And I think that's the wave of the future.
But you need Congress to agree to this because the PRAC will sunset. That platform is a real system. I think it's a system of record at this point for the federal government, so it's adaptable. But you have to make sure that they give you the means and the agreement that, yes, we'll pull this thing away from PRAC when PRAC goes away, and it will exist as something operated by CIGIE. That's the general model.
That's exactly right. That's the proposal that we've been working on with the Hill, with a number of stakeholders. There are some very interested parties. We have great support for this concept. But, it's in the proverbial sausage making, right? And that's where we are right now. There are some proposals out there. We are working with them to fine-tune those. We are generating support. But it's tough. Anytime you're talking about mixing data, there are some folks that, have concerns, and those are valid concerns. And we're just addressing those, trying to build support and get something through, because you're right, we need the authority and we need the funding, frankly, because it's not very expensive, but it's beyond our capability.
We're speaking with Mark Lee Greenblatt, chairman of the Council of Inspectors General on Integrity and Efficiency, CIGIE. And you had expressed in your latest annual report to Congress, the CIGIE report to Congress, about plans for updates of oversight.gov, which is, for a lot of people in and out of government, it's kind of a go-to site to see what's going on with respect to waste, fraud, and abuse. What are the plans for oversight.gov?
That is a great success story. I mean, just right out of the gate, that's a great indication of what CIGIE can do for the American taxpayers. This is a website that has all federal IG reports in one place, so they don't have to go to 73 different offices and search their files to find a report. Now you can search by a number of different ways to find what you're looking for. And it's hyper-sophisticated search terms. And so this can really drill down for members of Congress and the American public. We have now more than 29,000 reports on there. And it's not just federal IGs. We have started including state and local IGs, because if folks are looking for oversight, it doesn't matter what level it's occurring at. They want all of it. And so we have 29,000 reports on there. We have updates on IG vacancies. That has been an issue over the years. And now we have a page specifically devoted to IG vacancies. We also are hosting websites. So now my own office, the Department of the Interior OIG, our website is now hosted on oversight.gov, which gives us some independence so it doesn't have to go through the department. Again, that facilitates the American taxpayer and stakeholders in Congress getting access and getting direct reports from us. They don't have to go through the mechanism of the departments over which we are overseeing their projects. And that gives a significant amount of independence for us. Look, this is, as I said, a huge success for the American public and for the stakeholders on the Hill, and we're hoping to expand it. I think we're going to hit 30,000 reports in the not-too-distant future. If so, we're going to have a massive celebration, and Tom, I think we'll ask you to be the MC.
All right, you're on. Yeah, I'll even give a little speech because I've been following this stuff for so long.
I love it.
And then the pandemic spending is actually still going on unbelievably. Inexplicably, it never dies. But then we've got the so-called infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act. These are still potential spending streams at this point. A lot of money has been spent, a lot to go. Is CIGIE as a group, our inspectors general, looking at what did we learn from the fraud disaster, really, of PRAC that can maybe still prevent some of that from happening under inflation reduction and infrastructure?
Absolutely. We're doing a deep dive on both of those. Congress set up the PRAC as part of the pandemic legislation. They did not do so under the other two, the Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Bill. They didn't set up, but we have set that up informally in our community, specifically for the reasons that you said, to learn lessons, to collaborate, to share notes, and focus on what are some of the key issues that you're experiencing. We didn't want to do this in a vacuum. And those have been very effective. It's very different from the PRAC. With the pandemic scenario, that was a lot of money going out the door in a very fast fashion directly to users, directly to beneficiaries. Under the other two scenarios, the Infrastructure Bill and the Inflation Reduction Act, both of those are long-term contracts and grants. They have a much longer tail. And those are going to have a lot more government engagement with the money going out the door. And so the oversight efforts are going to be very different with respect to those latter two programs than the pandemic. And I think those fraud safeguards will therefore be heightened. We are also learning the lessons that you were just talking about to say, okay, what can we do better? And those are the things that we're sharing with the agency. For example, the White House convened what were then called the gold standard meetings. This is where they would bring the White House, OMB, the OIG, and the agencies involved as they're designing and implementing a program and say, okay, let's talk about accountability measures, anti-fraud measures that you're going to put in at the outset. And they would have the OIGs ask questions. Again, this isn't impacting our independence because we're not participating in the development of these programs, but we're asking questions. We're giving best practices that we've seen elsewhere in the community. We're using lessons learned that we've seen in our work before to heighten their awareness of these things as they're designing and implementing their programs. So we've taken that from the pandemic setting, which were called the gold standard meetings, and now are applying them with OMB in the White House to the infrastructure bill and the Inflation Reduction Act setting. And those have been very, very successful from our perspective. And having the buy-in from the White House and OMB, everyone in the same room, all at the same time, it